We return to Wentworth 1 week later, and Vera goes to see Jake in the staff room to ask him if he's able to pick up baby Grace from nursery today after his shift. Which of course he is more than happy to do, and Vera thanks him. She then heads over to Will's office to discuss a few complaints from the women, mainly about the no electrics rule in the units. Vera tells Will that she's had a little word with the minister about giving women back their TVs, kettles and toasters, and that he is thinking about it. Vera then asks Will if there has been any trouble with Lou Kelly, and Will replies saying nope, this past week she has been the model prisoner, but I still want all eyes on her until she's finished her sessions with Bridget. Vera then says, oh yes, Bridget's coming in today for a session with Kelly. I was thinking maybe I should get her to check on Boomer, she's still very down about Gavin's death, and I think a chat with Bridget will help. We then cut to the laundry where all the women are working, including Lou, who has a very nasty scar on her forehead that she's gonna have on there for the rest of her life. But she's not bothered by it at all, she's just happy that she got rid of the letter T. Rita keeps a watchful eye on her in the distance on the steam press. Ruby and Zaina are folding some sheets with Boomer, and Ruby asks Boomer if she's okay. Boomer wipes her nose and says, yeah, I'm fine, it's just the same old thing. Everyone leaves me in the end. Ruby says, look Booms, I am never going to leave you. But Boomer says, yes you will. You're gonna get your parole soon and then I'll never see you again. But Ruby says that she will visit, but Boomer says, nah, you won't. Nobody visits me anymore, not even Frankie. I just need to get used to the fact that I'm gonna have to do all of this on my own from now on. Boomer then runs out of the laundry in tears. Miss Miles is in the staff room alone by the lockers and taking a sneaky little swig of grog from her hip flask. And then in walks Janet Latham about to start her shift, and Linda quickly puts the grog into her locker. Janet says good morning to Linda as Linda walks past her. Janet then puts her things into the locker but is looking at a text message on her phone saying hurry up and get it done. And Janet has a concerned look on her face and slams her locker door. Boomer is crying in her cell and Addie comes in to see if she's okay. Addie gives Boomer a massive hug and Boomer cries into her shoulder, saying that it's not fair, why do bad things keep happening to me? Addie then tells Boomer that she's going to be okay, and no matter where she and the babies are, Gavin will always be looking down on them. Boomer then says, well how do you know? And Addie replies saying, well, let's just say when I had a brush with death in the explosion, I had a glimpse of what's waiting for me one day. And then Boomer's like, what do you mean? To which Addie says, well, when I was laying in all that rubble, I saw B, I saw her spirit. She was coming towards me with a bright light behind her. For a moment, I thought I was dead, but B told me it wasn't my time yet and that I needed to go back. She's waiting for me, Boomer, and she's always watching over me, and it will be the same with Gavin, I promise. We are all here for you, Boomer. You know you can do this. Jake then comes into the unit and tells Boomer that Miss Bridget Westfall would like to see her. Lou is walking back to H6 where she bumps into Janet Latham. Lou says, hey there firecracker, how's it hanging? Have you got an itch for me today? Janet replies saying, oh, I'll always have an itch for you, Kelly. And then Lou smirks and says, well, why did you lock me in that laundry last week? To which Janet says, I don't have to answer to you, Kelly. So Lou's like, okay, it's just a shame because if you ever fancied the real thing, then you've just blown it. Janet then goes up to Lou and whispers, if I wanted to have you, Kelly, I'd have you, and there would be nothing you could do to stop me. Janet then looks into Lou's eyes with a menacing face and walks off. Rita and the H1 girls head back to the unit where they see Miss Bennett. Rita and the girls ask her when are they getting their TVs back, and Vera says that the minister is thinking about it. Rita then says that it's not fair. It was Judy and Lou who blew up the prison, not us. You're the general manager now, Miss Bennett. Surely you can do something. Vera then says, leave it with me. Boomer is with Bridget having a meeting, and Boomer is crying her heart out to Bridget. Bridget tells Boomer that there is so much love and support for her and she'll never be alone. Boomer replies asking, how's Frankie? And Bridget says that she's good. She's working in the high courts now and she's doing really well for herself. And Boomer replies saying, that's good. Bridget then says, are you missing her, Boomer? To which Boomer nods her head. Bridget then says, I'm sure if I ask her to come and see you, she would. And Boomer's like, really? And Bridget's like, of course, I'll have a chat with her tonight and I'll arrange a visit. To which Boomer is really thankful for. Jake arrives at baby care to pick up baby Grace, where he meets Denise Tyler for the first time. When he arrives, baby Grace is crying, and Denise tells him that she's being a very grisly baby today. And Jake is like, oh no, I hope she's not coming down with something. Denise replies saying, I'm sure she'll be okay, she's just having a bad day. And Jake is like, yeah, okay, no worries, thank you for looking after her, we will see you same time tomorrow. Jake then heads to the car, and Denise has that creepy smile on her face again. We cut back to the prison and the officers are reinstalling all the TVs, kettles and toasters for the women, and all the girls are cheering. Vera tells them that this is just a trial run for the moment and any mishaps and they'll be taken away again. Linda then taps Vera on the shoulder and says that Jake is on the phone for her. Vera goes to the phone and on the other end of the phone is a very shaky Jake, asking Vera to please come home, it's Grace, something's wrong. Vera rushes home and runs into the house in a huge panic. She sees Jake in the bedroom with Grace and Vera is like, what's wrong? Jake then takes off Grace's top, which reveals 3 massive separate bruises to her body. Vera puts her hand over her mouth in shock and she's like, what the hell has happened to our daughter? And Jake says he doesn't know. He picked her up from baby care where Grace was crying, but the owner Denise didn't say anything about any accidents. Vera then looks at Jake and says, this is clearly not an accident. Someone has been hurting our daughter. Back to the prison, and Lou is in the middle of having her second session with Bridget. Bridget asks Lou why did she want to escape, and Lou just ends up laughing, saying, are you kidding me? I killed Sheila. I'm gonna be spending the rest of my life in this dump. So when Bryant offered me a way out, of course I was gonna take it. Bridget replies saying, you know, she can understand that, and she then goes on to ask how did she get that scar on her head. And Lou just brushes it off saying, it's nothing, it's just something on my body that tells an interesting story. So Bridget then says, let's just say someone did that to you. Are you now thinking of revenge? Lou then says, no, what's done is done. I've dished out some dirty punishments myself, so you gotta be willing to take it from time to time. Bridget then asks about Lou's family, to which Lou replies saying that she has a brother called Travis. But then Bridget asks about Lou's parents, and then Lou shuts down Bridget straight away, saying that she will not talk about her parents. She'll talk about anything, but she's not going down that path, which gives Bridget a concerned look on her face. The police are over at Vera's house taking photos of Grace's injuries, and Jake is given a statement. The police advise that they both need to take Grace straight to the hospital to be checked out, and the police are going to check the security cameras at baby care. Vera is shaking with anger. Janet is leaving the prison and she heads off to meet a stranger, a tall, stocky, menacing looking man who's wearing dark glasses. He tells Janet to hurry up with the plan, to which Janet replies saying to give her a chance, she's only been there a week. This strange man tells Janet that he will give her 48 hours, otherwise she will end up on the wrong side of the bars with her sister. Janet then says, okay, look, I think I have a plan. If I get Mitchell transferred over to Blackmore, then I'm sure Connors will follow. The strange man then says, I don't care how you do it, just do it. Get Mitchell and Connors sent over to Blackmore and then I will handle it from there. The following morning, and the police arrive to see Vera and Jake at Vera's house. The inspector tells them that he has an alarming update for them. He tells them that he's checked over the CCTV at baby care, and they have found out what the cause is for Grace's injuries. Denise Tyler threw baby Grace onto the floor, followed with some hitting, kicking, and stamping. Vera and Jake shake with anger as they hear these details. The inspector says that they have arrested Denise for questioning and that they are going to be taking a look back at other CCTV for the past 3 to 6 months. Vera bursts out crying and calls Denise a monster. Back in the prison, and Frankie has come to visit Boomer, which is a really nice scene. Boomer sits down with Frankie and they talk over old times. Frankie then asks Boomer how she's really feeling, and Boomer turns around and says that she's okay, she just misses everyone, she's scared how she's going to cope with the babies, and she's even more scared that she won't be allowed to keep her babies in prison now that she's doing life after what happened with Liz. Frankie turns around to Boomer and says, look Booms, I don't think you had a fair trial. Why don't you let me take a look at the case and see if I can find a way to appeal your sentence? Boomer then smiles and she does a little nervous cry laugh and says, oh Frankie, you're amazing, I've really missed you. At the same time in the visiting room, Lou is having a visit with her brother Travis. And Travis has got 2 black eyes. Lou turns around and says, what the fuck happened to you? Trav then tells Lou that he's in trouble, serious trouble. He's racked up over $50,000 of gambling debts, and there are some really dangerous people after him because he can't pay it back. Lou turns around and says, fucking hell Trav, how did you manage to get yourself into that mess? He replies by saying that he needs to make a run for it, but he doesn't want to leave his sister. And Lou is like, well there's fuck all that I can do stuck in here. Trav then says, why don't you make another break for it and then you can come with me and we can start a new life. I can't do this on my own. Lou then looks at Trav and says, how am I supposed to break out of here? I've got all eyes on me at the moment. If it's not from the screws, then it's from the women. You're a stupid bugger for getting yourself into this. Officer Janet Latham then walks into the visitors area and Lou looks over at her for a second and has a little bit of a light bulb moment. Lou then looks back at her brother and says, look, leave it with me, there might just be a way around this, but keep your head down until I get back into contact with you because I can't lose you too. Boomer comes running back into the H1 unit with all smiles on her face, and she tells the girls that Frankie is going to try and help her get an appeal, and all the girls are really happy for her. Boomer then goes up to Rita and asks her permission to make some home brew, and Rita is like, what? Why? Boomer replies saying, I need a way to make some money on the side now that I'm on my own, and this is the best way that I know that I can do it. And Rita bursts out laughing, and then Boomer's like, nah, honest Rita, ask some of the girls in here, my home brew is the best. Rita then says, okay Boomer, but just make sure you don't get caught because we don't want to lose our TVs now, do we? And Boomer's like, thank you Rita. Back at Vera's house, and the police tell Vera and Jake that Denise has admitted the assault on Grace, and she has been released on bail pending further investigation. Vera shouts out, what the hell is wrong with you? She assaulted my baby daughter. The inspector says yes, and she's admitted it, and we have charged her with it, but we want to see if she's done anything else to any other children. This is why we have temporarily released her on bail for the moment. Vera just says to the inspector that this is a total joke. Vera then grabs her coat and says that she's going to be late for work, and she orders Jake to take the day off work to look after baby Grace. Lou is alone in H6 and Janet Latham comes in to speak with her. Lou looks up at her and says, so, you ready for that itch? Janet turns around to make sure that there's nobody there. She then looks back at Lou and says, okay Kelly, you might actually be useful to me for once. And Lou is intrigued and she says, "How is that, Miss Latham?" Janet then says that she needs someone to create a diversion tomorrow afternoon when all the women are in the yard. Lou then asks, "Why should I do you any favours?" Janet then says, "Fine, don't worry about it." And then she goes to walk off, but then Lou says, hold on. "I didn't say I wouldn't do it, but I just want a little favour in return." Janet then turns and looks at Lou and says, "What is it that you want, Kelly?" And then Lou says, "You're gonna help me break out of this dump." And Janet just bursts out laughing and says, "In your dreams, Kelly," and she ends up walking off. And Lou shouts out, "Okay then, but let me know if you change your mind." Vera arrives into work when she gets a phone call from Jake. Denise Tyler has just driven her car into baby care, and there are multiple fatalities and she is being rearrested. Vera's mouth drops. The news report on TV is on in H1 of what's happened at baby care, and they put a photo up of Denise Tyler. The girls are shocked at what they are reading and hearing. It's then announced on the news that at least 2 adults and a young baby has been killed, which sends shockwaves through the unit. Janet is in the staff room checking her phone and she has just received a text message saying "TikTok." Janet then swallows her pride and heads back to see Lou, and this time Janet agrees to help Lou escape as long as she creates a diversion in the yard, long enough for Janet to set up Ruby for Zaina's murder. Lou's mouth drops when she hears this with a cheeky little smile. She then says to Janet, "It's nice to finally meet someone as fucked up as me." Janet then gives off a smile back at Lou and she says, "Have we got a deal?" And Lou then says, "Okay, deal." We then cut to the police station where Denise is being questioned. The police ask her, "Why did you do it?" And she replies saying, "I hate babies. They make me sick with all of their crying and whining, and most of them grow up to be wasters anyway, so I thought I'd do the world a favour." The policemen and the inspectors, they can't believe what they're hearing. The inspector in charge then comes into the room telling Denise that a team of officers have just finished searching her home, and they have discovered the remains of what looks like 3 small bodies, and Denise then lets off a menacing smile. We cut back to the prison and Vera is walking down near H1 and she can hear the news report that the girls are watching, so Vera heads down and watches from the bars. The news report says about the bodies that have been found at the house and goes on to say what started the inquiry in the first place, and they talk about a young baby being abused in care. And at this point Vera's face turns to thunder as she grabs hold of the bars very tightly. But then, all of a sudden, Vera's angry face turns to worry when another news report pops up about a missing persons case. Dr. Miller. His sister is on the news making an appeal saying that Dr. Miller has been missing for the past 3 months. Vera looks totally shocked and she then has some flashbacks to the moments where Ferguson walks off into the night. Has Joan had something to do with Dr. Miller going missing? Vera walks off in panic and Boomer then bursts out crying, saying, "How can anyone hurt little babies? Like, I just don't understand it." Rita then says, "Don't worry, Boomer. If she does come here, she would be put straight into protection." Zaina then says, "That's a shame. I think Mr. Jackson should let us sort her out." Rita then says, "Oh, if she ever does come into general, she won't last 30 seconds. Vera is in Will's office with the minister, and the minister informs both of them that there is currently an angry mob of protesters outside the police station where Denise is being held, and that we are gonna have to be very careful when she comes here. Vera has a menacing look on her face and Will says, "Why isn't she being sent to Blackmore?" The minister replies saying that's what the protesters are going to think, that she's gone to Blackmore. Look, the crimes that Denise has made is one of the worst, and there is a huge group of angry protesters outside the police station. We can't risk them all turning up here at the prison, so the police are going to be sending a fake van to Blackmore that the protesters will no doubt follow, but then Denise will be sent here at midnight tonight while all the women are asleep. He goes on to say that this has to be top secret. Nobody can know that Denise is in Wentworth, not even the women here. Vera and Will look at each other in disbelief. Vera then turns to the minister and says, "Do you know what she did to my daughter?" And the minister says, "I'm sorry, Vera. I know this will be painful for both you and Jake, but I am confident that you and Mr. Stewart can put your personal differences aside, and Denise Tyler will be safe here, at least until her trial, and then she'll be sent into state." Vera just laughs and says, "I take it you don't have any children, Minister." And then the minister says, "I'm sorry, Vera, there's nothing I can do." Rita heads to the showers where she bumps into Lou. They walk past each other and then Lou says, "You got nothing to say, Connors?" Rita turns around and says, "No, Lou, I will never have anything to say to you. Well, not anything nice anyway." Lou then says, "Do you know what, Connors? I didn't think you'd have it in you to go as far as you did. I thought you were all just fisticuffs." Rita says, "Yeah, well, if you don't want any more of the same, then you keep your nose clean and keep away from me." Lou says, "Look, I know you and me are never going to be bosom buddies, but let's just say you win." Rita then just bursts out laughing and starts running her shower and says, "Whatever, Kelly." Lou then walks out to the showers with a cheeky smile on her face. As Lou gets back to her unit, she sees Janet, and Lou tells her that she wants her to get her some cleaning acid from the store cupboard. Janet says, "What are you going to do with that, Kelly?" And Lou then says, "I want to give all my friends a big leaving present before I go." Vera heads home and Jake is in the bedroom telling baby Grace a story. Vera asks Jake how has she been, and Jake says that she's been fine today. Her bruises are healing quite well. Vera then tells Jake about the Denise Tyler plan, and Jake turns around and says that is just beyond sick. How can the minister do this to us? And Vera says, I know. I argued with him until I was blue in the face. Don't worry, if you or the women don't end up killing her, then I think I will." Jake then goes on to ask if she saw the news about Dr. Miller, and Vera says, "Yep, I did see it as well." Jake then says, "Are you so sure now that Ferguson isn't dead?" And Vera says, "Don't be stupid, Jake, of course she is." We then cut to the police station where there are hundreds of angry people wanting to get their hands on Denise Tyler, and Ali's friend, Sandy Edwards, is at the front leading them on. The police send out the fake car to go to Blackmore, and the baying mob start throwing bottles and bricks and banging on the van as it passes. Sandy then tells everyone to follow that van, and the mob soon disintegrate. As midnight arrives, Denise is put into the real van where she is headed for Wentworth. Back at Vera's house, and Vera has let Jake stay in the spare room overnight. She goes into the kitchen because she can't sleep, knowing that the woman who hurt her daughter is on her way to Wentworth right now. Vera sees some mail on the table and she goes to have a look. When she opens one of the letters, a small USB stick falls out with Vera's name on. She goes on to her laptop and plugs in the USB stick and sees that there is a video file on there, so she clicks on the video. And when it loads up, a face from the past pops up. Joan Ferguson saying, "Hello, Vera."